Welcome to episode 12 of Dalek Bumps Question Time. Scatterman asks, if there had to be a final end to the Daleks, what would you want that to be like? I've spoken several times about a potential final end story for the Daleks, but I haven't really talked much about how I'd actually want the Daleks' final end to play out, and that's because I honestly don't know. In isolation, the idea of depicting a theoretical final chapter in the Daleks' story as a standalone episode, similar to how Genesis of the Daleks tells a version of the Dalek origin story, is an interesting one. Could the episode be a thematic antithesis to Genesis? Could the episode perhaps involve Davros in some capacity? How exactly would the Daleks die out, and should the ending to their story be tragic or optimistic? There have been several supposed final ends to the Daleks before, like in Evil of the Daleks and Journey's End, as well as several possible better futures for them that were tragically ruined, such as in Evolution of the Daleks and in several Big Finish Time War audios. However, illustrating how the Daleks eventually end up could be an interesting way to shake up their story. Will they eventually develop a conscience and turn their back on their hateful ways? Will they simply devolve into mindless beasts? Will they destroy each other or be destroyed by some other powerful force? We may never know. The final end of the Daleks will likely be more of a whimper than a bang, but it's a fun idea to speculate about. An episode depicting the final chapter in the Dalek story doesn't necessarily have to be the final Dalek episode in the show. Time travel means basically anything is possible, but it could be an interesting milestone in their real-world history, much like Genesis of the Daleks, Remembrance of the Daleks, or Dalek. An anonymous user asks, do you think a Davros and the Cybermen story could work? Absolutely. For Big Finish at least, a story featuring David Banks' Cyber leader interacting with Terry Molloy's Davros will be an 80s Who fan's dream come true. However, while it would be cool to hear these two characters interact, the story would have to be good, otherwise the matchup would be wasted. There are some great potential ideas though. Would Davros work with the Cybermen? Would the Cybermen trust Davros? Perhaps Davros and the Cyber leader enter a false alliance, with both secretly scheming against the other and waiting for the right moment to reveal their betrayal. Or perhaps the alliance will be in earnest, and Davros will aid the Cybermen in fighting the Daleks in order to avoid being taken for trial by his creations. Arnold Judas Rimmer asks, can you recommend any newer Big Finish releases for classic Who Doctors? Certainly, while there are lots of brilliant audio stories in Big Finish's earlier catalogue, there are also some great audios in their more recent range of releases. For the 5th Doctor, there are several later releases from the main range that are great listens. There's a really underrated Dalek story called Alien Heart Dalek Soul, which is a fantastic audio, great for fans of Dalek science. Other great 5th Doctor releases include Shadow of the Daleks, a story that flings the 5th Doctor into the fray of the Time War, split into 8 25-minute parts across 2 main range releases, and for Cyberman fans, there's Warzone Conversion, featuring David Banks as the Cyber leader. The 5th Doctor has also had several recent box set releases, the most notable being the 40 box set celebrating 40 years of the 5th Doctor. The 6th Doctor has also had a wide range of recent Big Finish releases that are all worth looking into, such as The Last Adventure, the 6th Doctor's final chronological story that also features his regeneration scene and final battle with the Valiard leading into Time and the Rani, the Unbound Doctor of War series, which takes place in an alternate timeline in which the 4th Doctor chooses to destroy the Daleks in Genesis of the Daleks, starting the Time War far earlier than in the main timeline and forcing the 6th Doctor to take on the role of the War Doctor, as well as the 6th Doctor's adventures with Constance Clark and Flip Jackson. Some later era main range 6th Doctor audios that are well worth a listen are Order of the Daleks, one of my personal favourite Dalek audios, Static, a fantastic horror story, Hour of the Cybermen, a great Cyberman story that also features David Banks, and Emissary of the Daleks, featuring Perry. The 6th Doctor has also had a range of box sets released recently, including the 11 box set featuring Mark Bonar, the Purity series featuring Ruth Madeley, and the Quinn Dilemma and Trials of a Time Lord box sets, which celebrate 40 years of the 6th Doctor. 7th Doctor fans have a range of audio stories to pick from, including the later instalments of the main range featuring both Mel and Ace as companions, the Time Lord Villains trilogy of Dark Universe featuring the 11, the Psychic Circus featuring the Master, and Subterfuge featuring the Meddling Monk. And like the 5th and 6th Doctors, the 7th Doctor has a range of new box sets like Silver and Ice, Sullivan and Cross AWOL, and The Last Day. For classic Who fans, there are also a range of Big Finish trilogies that are well worth a listen, like the Locum Doctors trilogy, each of which pairs an 80s Doctor with classic companions from 60s or 70s Who, and the Two Masters trilogy, featuring the incarnations of the Master played by Geoffrey Beevers and Alex McQueen, who battle to the death across time and space with various incarnations of the Doctor caught in the crossfire. But by far the best range of more recent Big Finish audios are those belonging to the 8th Doctor, After the conclusion of his adventures with Lucy Miller, the Eighth Doctor begins travelling with new companion Molly O'Sullivan, a nurse from the First World War, and later picks up Liv Chenka, a medtech from Kaldor, in the Dark Eyes series, 4 box sets that combine to form a 16-part epic space opera featuring the Master, the Dalek Time Controller, and a new threat called the Eminence. Following Dark Eyes, the Eighth Doctor has a series of epic adventures spanning several box sets, featuring companions Liv Chenka and Helen Sinclair, a historian from the 60s, as well as a range of new adversaries. The Doom Coalition series introduces the 11, a Time Lord criminal suffering from regenerative dissonance, meaning all of his other incarnations live on as separate personalities inside his head, all 10 of them. His schemes span 4 box sets featuring a range of returning characters and villains, such as River Song, the Meddling Monk, and the Weeping Angels. Following Doom Coalition is the Ravenous series, which continues the adventures of the Doctor, Liv, Helen, and the 11, and also features Churchill, Charlie Pollard, and 4 incarnations of the Master, including Missy. Spanning 32 audio stories, the Doom Coalition and Ravenous box sets tell an epic tale that is tailor-made for dedicated Doctor Who fans, and is a great ride from start to finish. Other recent 8th Doctor sets that are worth a listen are the Time War audios, What Lies Inside, Audacity, and the Stranded series. And there's even more new stuff for fans of New Who, the War Doctor Begins series, the 9th Doctor adventures, and of course Dalek Universe. There's plenty of recent Big Finish content to enjoy, but the most highly recommended audios are Alien Heart Dalek Soul, the Locum Doctors and Two Masters trilogies, the Doom Coalition and Ravenous series, and Dalek Universe. And that's all we've got for this episode of Dalek Bumps Question Time. Leave your answers to these great questions, as well as any recommendations for good Big Finish audio stories, in the comments below.
Don't forget to click below to subscribe to
Dalek Bumps.